Do you remember there being a period in January of 2024 where where Collin was with you for several weeks and Kathy didn't remember that he had gone with you?
Yes.
And do you know what was going on with Kathy at that time?
She was suicidal, taking pills. She just didn't want to have her life. She was drinking excessively. She drank Everclear as her alcoholic choice.
Okay, Ms. Dettman, just answer the questions, okay?
Yes.
You mentioned that she was suicidal in January. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 15. See if you recognize the subject matter of those texts.
Yes.
Judge would like to admit Defense Exhibit number 15 into evidence.
Objection?
No objection, Judge.
And received.
Ms. Dettman, Defense Exhibit 16 is dated February 5th of 2024, and the blue text at the top was Kathy's number 941-258-0963.
Yes.
And were you the number below that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you mentioned a 786 number, but you had two phones, correct?
Yes.
Why did you have two phones?
I use one for work and one for personal.
So the blue message on top talks about Kathy just having been released from the ER for an accidental overdose. Was that one of the times that she had had a suicide attempt?
Yes.
So the phone that you bought for Collin in either January or February of 2024, and I'm sorry if you already answered this, but he didn't keep that after the brief period that he lived with you then, did he?
He went home with it and I had it back on the weekend.
Okay, so shortly after he went back home to Kathy.
Yes.
So Kathy, it sounds like off and on had estrangement from various family members.
Yes.
You mentioned that you and she didn't speak for quite some time after your cancer diagnosis. Had she cut other members of the family off at other times in her life?
Her and John Paul were not speaking.
Do you know why?
Yes. She got mad at his wife because the house wasn't clean to her standard, and she said, I'm going to call DHS, which in our state is Child Protective Services, that Isabella was not taken care of, that she was in danger, something. I know DHS ended coming up to John Melanges' house. Of course, the investigation proved that there wasn't a problem, and John just said, I will never have anything to do with her again. She crossed the line.
Any other family estrangements from Kathy besides you and her brother John?
So Kevin and Kathy were supposed to go to Washington DC together.
Kevin is your son with
Yes, and Kevin
Inaki.
and Kathy were pretty close. They were supposed to go to Washington DC together because Kevin was in officer basic training in Virginia for the Florida National Guard. He just graduated from college, and he had time off during the 4th of July. And Kathy said, it'd be great if Collin and I could meet up with Jean Paul in Washington, D.C.
Do you mean Kevin or?
Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin. Kevin would meet up. I was supposed to go because, of course, my cancer, I couldn't.
Miss Volantis, I'm sorry. I know you're nervous, but the estrangement,
Yes.
how that
So what
occurred.
happened is Kathy contacted Kevin and said, unless you help me get your father arrested, meaning Inaki Markovich, I don't want you coming to Washington, D.C. with me.
Do you know what Kathy was referring to as far as helping her get your husband arrested?
Yes, they had had an altercation in our farm in Arcadia during COVID, so it was during 2020, around Easter time. It was before Easter. And she threatened him with a baseball bat, and she said she was going to get her gun and shoot him. And my husband brought a shotgun out and said, I have a shotgun here. We're not going to be doing this. And later she said that he used the shotgun, fired the shotgun. And I said, it was a double wide. I think I would know if a shotgun had been fired in the ceiling in a double wide.
Okay. So after that interaction between Kathy and Kevin, were they estranged from each other for a while? But it sounds like she would kind of change her mind about who she was close with or wanted to have communication with. Is that?
Yes, because she called Kevin the next day and said, I'm sorry, come on to Washington, D.C. with us. And Kevin said, I already told my cadre, my leave's been canceled.
Okay. Are you aware of threats that Kathy had made to commit suicide?
Yes.
How many are you aware of, if you know?
I'm aware of 5.
Okay.
No, 6.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 14. See if you recognize this.
Yes, I do.
I'd like to admit Defense Exhibit 14 into evidence, please.
Objection.
No objection, Judge.
It will be received.
What is this exhibit?
I wasn't sure, Kathy showed that to me. I wasn't sure if it was blood or a magic marker because I didn't see it physically. She said that it had something to do with a song she was listening to. And she was upset because of the divorce.
And you can't quite see it now, but did you see a video of, so you can see the triangle for play. Had you seen the actual video of this?
Yes.
In it, can you see what's written on the left side of Kathy's arm? I mean, you can't see it right now, but do you remember what it said?
I don't remember what it said because it was just so horrific that, that she was doing this to herself.
I'm coming up here, so don't forget to give it to the clerk. Have you actually called law enforcement on occasion when Kathy made suicidal statements to you?
Yes.
All right, so you said you know of about 6 threats. What about actual attempts by Kathy to kill herself? Or was that the 6 and I misunderstood?
Those were the 6 attempts.
Okay. Can you describe some of those for the jury?
Yes. So the first one was, well, she was still married, and she was very upset, and she had overdosed on her trazamine. And she told me, I was in Key Largo, and she lived in Key Largo at the time. And I said, I'm going to have to take you in right now to emergency room. You're going to die. And she said, no, I'm not going in.
Ms. Dettman, it's okay. You don't have to give all of those
Okay, I'm
details.
sorry.
That's all right. I understand. So that was one attempt. What about other attempts that you're aware of?
So the second attempt was when she was in Port Charlotte. I had to go over the fence and open the sliding glass door, and she was in her bed, all dressed in black, and with a revolver in her hand.
And had she done anything with any medications that
Yes,
time?
she had overdosed on the oxycodone.
Did she end up going to the hospital that time?
Yes.
Any other attempts that you remember?
Yes. There was another attempt with oxycodone again, about 4 months later. Then there was an attempt with medication and Everclear. The second attempt, she went back to the emergency room and was admitted, Baker active. The third time, when I called Port Charlotte Police, they got there and said, she appears fine to me. If she wants to drink in her own house, that there's nothing we can do. And then the most recent time was just in August of this year, August 21st. She called me and said she had overdosed on metoprolol, her heart and blood pressure medication, because the other ones didn't work. So she said, I did that, and I said, have Collin take you to the ER. No, I don't want to go. Have Collin take you. Finally, I talked Collin into taking her to the emergency room.
So, to your knowledge, Collin was home when she overdosed and actually had to drive her to the
Yes.
emergency room
Yes.
in August of 2024.
Yes.
You mentioned that Kathy had been Baker acted. Was that more than one time?
Yes.